Electric cars have become increasingly popular in recent years with the benefits of saving on gas and saving the environment. But data shows some consumers are wary of the price and the effectiveness of the models.
Are electric vehicles truly the future of transportation? As more people consider making the switch, it's crucial to understand the potential challenges that come with owning one. 10. The public chargers. It seems easy to use a public charger. Just pull up, plug it in, wait for 30 to 60 minutes and you're good to go. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. One big problem with public chargers is their unreliability. It's pretty common to find one that just doesn't work when you need it. And it's not just that, they're not as easy to use as just swiping your credit card. Each one usually needs its own special app that you have to download. Some of these apps can be really annoying to use, or worse, they might not work at all. Even when the chargers are working, you might find a bunch of cars ahead of you, all waiting to charge up just like you. And it's not like you can just go to another charger nearby, because they're usually not as easy to find as gas stations. Now, some chargers are definitely better than others. Tesla stands out as a good example with a reliable charging network, better than most other brands. But when it comes to all the other chargers out there, you really can't count on them regularly. They're just too problematic and unreliable. Dealing with charger issues is a problem that's also connected to 9. The unpredictability driving range. Even if electric cars advertise a specific range, like 300 miles or around 500 kilometers on one charge, the actual range you get in real life can be totally different. For instance, extreme weather conditions like very cold or hot weather can seriously affect the driving range. Even the most EVs have fancy thermal management systems and heat pumps meant to help in really cold weathers. The reality can be quite different. If you live in a place with really cold winters, you might still lose about 20 to 30% of your range, which is a big problem. This is also true if you do a lot of long-distance highway driving or towing, both of which can also affect an EV's range. Like most electronics with batteries, manufacturers usually suggest keeping the battery between 20 to 80% charged. So even though a car might theoretically have a range of about 300 miles, the actual usable range, if you care about the battery's life, is much less. 8. Battery degeneration. Just like with other electrical devices, the battery in electric vehicles degenerates over time and slowly loses their capacity. It's commonly believed that most electric vehicles will lose around 5 to 10% of their capacity over the first 500,000 miles, or 160,000 kilometers. This means that if you buy an EV with a range of, let's say 300 miles when it's brand new, after a few years it might only be able to travel around 270 to 280 miles. And this degeneration will only get worse as the vehicle gets older and the mileage increases over time. That's why we always suggest that anyone looking to buy an EV should go for one with the most range. And if a car offers two different batteries, a standard range and a long range, it's always best to choose the long range battery. To give yourself more buffer and protection against battery degeneration, but unfortunately, battery degeneration is not the only issue that you need to be concerned with. 7. Maintenance issues. Now, if you're buying an EV, you might be thinking you're going to save yourself a ton of money on maintenance, especially when it comes to things like oil changes, which are not necessary on EVs. The brakes on an EV are also known to last an extremely long time as well. But one maintenance item that's known to not last very long is the tyres. And this is a major problem because electric vehicles typically have a lot of power going to the wheels, and they're also much heavier than normal vehicles. This puts a lot more wear on the tyres. Depending on the vehicle you're looking at, you could end up replacing your tyres 2 to 3 times more often than a comparable conventional vehicle. So all the money you're going to save on brakes and oil changes is going to be spent on tyres. And if you were thinking an electric vehicle was going to keep you out of the dealership or garage, think again. That brings us to the next major issue, with EVs, and that is the cost of repairs, servicing and dealerships. Even though, theoretically, EVs are relatively simple when compared to a conventional vehicle, you basically have a large battery pack and an electric motor. 6. Complicated to repair. Unfortunately, it's not as simple as that. EVs can still have a very complicated cooling system, a lot of complicated electronics, computer modules, and not to mention all the same features as a conventional car, with all the sensors, cameras and screens that go along with them. So these vehicles can be extremely complicated to repair, and when something does go wrong with them, they typically do cost more than a conventional vehicle. And not only that, but because EVs have not been on the market for a terribly long time, the repair knowledge is just not there yet, especially when compared to conventional vehicles or even hybrids. And for certain brands like, say, Tesla, that can be a major headache because they typically have a very limited network when it comes to service centres. 5. Servicing is a headache. Servicing them can be a major pain, and that brings us to the number 5 issue of headaches of owning an electric vehicle. Unknown long-term reliability. Because most of the popular electric vehicles on the market right now haven't been around for a long time, we don't really know about the long-term reliability is going to be like. They just don't have the proven track record that you have with a lot of conventional vehicles, or even a lot of hybrids. These vehicles have been on the market for a very long time, and we generally know what to expect. But that's not really the case when it comes to EVs. No one really knows what they're going to be like when they're around 12 to 15 years old, or even beyond that. It's still a bit of a mystery. 4. Failure of EV batteries. Now, so far at least, there's no real data that shows electric vehicles are having their batteries fail. And on the bright side, electric vehicles do come with a very long battery warranty, typically 8 years long. But some of them have warranties that are even 10 years long. But even though, so far, there's no real data to show that electric vehicle batteries are failing, the potential fear of battery failure is still going to be there, especially for owners that hold onto their vehicle past the warranty period. And this is a legitimate fear, especially when it comes to how much it costs to replace the battery packs. It can typically cost over 5 figures, at least 10 grand, sometimes even over 20 grand. So even if the risk of battery failure is extremely low, the idea that having a battery fail outside the warranty period basically makes your vehicle worthless and basically junk is not exactly something that a lot of owners can really get on board with. 3. Resale value. Even though a lot of EVs do hold their value fairly well for the first 3 to 5 years beyond the warranty period, when the cars are more than 8 years old, that's when the value is going to drop tremendously quick. And that's because a lot of consumers don't want to be stuck with an older electric vehicle that has a ticking time bomb of a battery that could potentially fail at any point, basically making the vehicle worthless. The value of an electric vehicle is really closely tied to the age and condition of its battery, and if you have one that has an older battery that might have questionable lifespan, well, that vehicle is not going to have much value in it. 2. Cost of insurance. Because electric vehicles are extremely expensive to repair, this also applies to collision repairs. They can be surprisingly expensive to insure as well, so even though electric vehicles are actually quite safe and most of them have top-notch safety ratings, the cost to repair is extremely high, and that pushes up the insurance premiums, something that a lot of buyers might not be prepared for. 1. Extremely expensive. Most electric vehicles are extremely expensive and definitely well above the price range of an average consumer. We have just not reached the point yet where most electric vehicles are within the price range of the lower to middle class consumers, and that is a major barrier to ownership with how expensive new vehicles are becoming every single year. Who knows exactly when electric vehicles will be attainable for consumers, but one thing's for sure, the technology is going to be dramatically improved over time, and there is a very strong chance that within the next decade, or maybe even within the next 5 years, a lot of these issues in this video will eventually be addressed. Do you think it's still worth buying? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. See ya in the next one.